The twin moons of Mars hung like pallid sentinels over wind-sculpted dunes, their light spreading across the iron dust and turning the battlefield into a copper sea. Captain Elise Novak stood knee-deep in that rust-red ocean with her sidearm humming at her shoulder. Yet the weight that steadied her heart was the warm presence leaning into her thigh. Kairo, a German shepherd bred on Earth, but born to conquer harsher skies. They had trained in Nevada deserts, chased simulated drones through glass canyons, and slept curled against the thrum of interplanetary engines. Still nothing prepared them for the ruinous beauty of a Martian dawn stitched with alien silhouettes. Electrostatic gusts rattled Elise's visor as she scanned the ridge. Pearlescent carapaces shimmered there, 30 yards out, mouthing static shrieks in an untranslatable register. Command called them Nautiloids for the spiraled armor that wrapped their torsos, but Elise thought they resembled misplaced nightmares, deep ocean phantoms dredged onto shore by the tide of human ambition. She tapped 2 fingers on Kairo's collar sensor. His microservos hummed, and the carbon fiber plating along his shoulders deployed razor fins meant to deflect acid spit. A tight bark answered. Ready. Elise obeyed the unspoken rhythm the dog established, because across every campaign, Kairo's instincts had proven more precise than her herd's threat recognition suite. In that liminal silence before the first shot, Elise let herself taste remembered rain. Portland drizzle on city rooftops, waterflecks catching Kairo's puppy grin, the scent of wet pavement. And then she folded the memory away like a letter in a breast pocket. Fighting on Mars demanded brutal presence. Nostalgia could perforate a soldier quicker than plasma. The ridge erupted, Nautiloids uncoiled, revealing translucent tendrils studded with bone-colored thorns. Elise fired a 3-burst volley. Incandescent tracers sliced the dusty gloom, each impact blooming cobalt sparks on alien cuirasses. Kairo launched low, weaving between geysers of disturbed regolith, his paw pads kicking up vermilion plumes. The first Nautiloid he met fell to those titanium fangs. The second tried to spear him, but Elise's pulse rifle turned the creature's limb into vapor before the barb could strike. As return fire cracked overhead, arcs of toxic green plasma carving the morning, Elise felt adrenaline braid itself with profound gratitude. This dog, this improbable comrade, was the only voice strong enough to drown the planet's silence. When smoke veiled the sun and the ground quaked beneath distant ordnance, she pressed her helmet to Kairo's and whispered a promise meant for both of them. We leave no red sand between us. We leave together or not at all. The vow lingered in the comms like a heartbeat, and the fight truly began. Even before the first spore round blossomed against her cuirass, Elise knew this engagement would redefine the word survive. Nautiloids moved with unnerving geometry, arranging themselves into hexagonal phalanxes that refracted energy blasts through interlocking shields. Every missed shot from the human side ricocheted back in a lethal kaleidoscope. Elise and Kairo pivoted, each trusting the other's blind side. She tracked aerial spores that detonated on proximity, while he intercepted low slithering drones armed with ion-fanged mandibles. On Earth, tacticians preached distance, but Martian gravity altered trajectories in sly ways, bending lasers into gentle arcs and turning thrown grenades into lazily spinning moons. Elise exploited the physics, lobbing smart charges that drifted like seeds before searing open the Nautiloid formation. Kairo capitalized, sprinting through the breach, micro-thrusters firing along his hind legs so he cleared a chasm the aliens had gouged as a moat. He landed inside their shield wall, optimized jaws finding cabling that powered the entire lattice. A single tug, and the hexagon collapsed into shrapnel. For a breathless instant, the battlefield fell still, every combatant recalibrating. Elise's exosuit reported microfractures across her left rib plate. Blood pressure spiked. Oxygen dipped. She could almost hear her late father's voice. "Don't count the seconds, count your reasons," echoing across a guttered lungful of resealed air. Reason? Kairo. Reason? The listening colonies spread out across Valles Marineris, depending on this thin red line of soldiers to keep the starship bays unbreached. Reason? A small violet flower pressed inside her journal, souvenir of earth bloom seasons yet to come. The Nautiloids regrouped, adapting. Emerald runes flickered along their shells, and they merged into a towering gestalt 8 meters high. Its composite limbs hammered the sand, ripples radiating like shockwaves through a crimson pond. Kairo skidded beside Elise, the dog's breathing synced to her own ragged cadence. She toggled the rail cannon slung across her back. 3 shots before coolant lock, each draw on the core risking meltdown. She knelt, Kairo bracing against her knee to steady the barrel. First shot. A spiraling bolt shattered the gestalt's left cluster, molten chunks spraying skyward. Second, misfire, servo jam. Alien Colossus answered with a concussive roar that shook Elise's molars. Plasma geysers roared around them, glassing patches of ground into black mirrors that reflected a war-torn sky. At the edge of her HUD, a flare icon pulsed. Friendly extraction vector, 13 minutes out. If landing zone secured. 13 minutes on Mars could fold eternity into paper-thin moments. Elise slammed the cannon housing, dislodging fused bolts. Kairo nudged her gauntlet with a whine that meant believe. Third shot boomed. A comet birthed from stubborn willpower. It pierced the gestalt's heart node, rupturing stored gravitational energy. In the implosion that followed, sand fountains leapt 50 meters high, and alien fragments drifted like charred snow. Elise and Kairo tumbled backward, armor screaming warnings, comms crackling with half-lost cheers from squad mates scattered across sectors. She tasted iron in her mouthguard, smelled singed fur, felt the dog's heartbeat press through joint plating into her palm. They were alive, hanging by fraying threads, but alive, and the next wave was already cresting the dune. When the red horizon finally cooled from molten to ember, Mars offered an illusion of peace, a hush so absolute it might fool a tired soul into thinking the fight was finished. Elise resisted the mirage. Exhaustion slithered through her veins, tempting her eyelids to barricade the world out. Kairo stood rigid, tail a metronome ticking off distant footfalls the human ear could not yet pass. The air tasted of ozone and alien ichor, mingling into a metallic tang that branded memory. Reinforcements had arrived, but not theirs. A swarm of lesser Nautiloids advanced in concentric spirals, using the shattered hulks of their dead as cover. Elise's squad channels buzzed with overlapping strategies none could fully execute. Too few soldiers remained upright, too little ammunition. Debrief rooms on Phobos Station are designed to mute grief with sterile geometry. White polyglass angles, gravity set to a buoyant 0.3 G, so shoulders feel lighter than hearts. But no architect could muffle the absence pacing beside Captain Elise Novak as she recited her after-action log. Every sentence tasted of iron and smoke. Relay core detonated at 0743 LST. Nautiloid swarm neutralized. 1 K9 operative, designation Kairo, presumed KIA. The recording drone blinked blue, indifferent. When protocol allowed a pause, Elise closed her eyes and pictured the last frame burned onto her retina. A German shepherd outlined in supernova light, ears pricked, tail raised. Heroic even at the instant of obliteration. An ache cleaved through her like a fault line opening under Marsquake stress. But duty demanded composure, so she moved on to ammunition tallies and casualty gradients until the log concluded with a hollow click. She drifted down the corridor toward the viewing dome, where station windows framed Mars as a bruised marble. Beyond the glass, salvage skiffs sifted the blast zone. She knew they would find nothing more substantial than vitrified sand. An instinctive whistle escaped her lips. 3 descending notes, their private recall code, then died against the Plex surface. That silence hurt worse than cable burns. "Captain, you might want to see this." Lieutenant Reyes intercepted her, holding a data slate alive with jittery telemetry. A faint biosign pulsed at the slate's center, tagged unknown mammal. Canid parameters probable. Reyes explained that a recon drone, dispatched hours after evacuation, had detected movement inside a gully, carved by the explosion's shockwave. Not possible. Elise's rational mind argued. The core's fireball should have left only glass. Yet the heartbeat graph, fragile and rhythmic, refused to align with reason. Minutes later, she was strapped into a short-range hopper, knifing through Phobos's docking veil, her harness thrumming as engines screamed toward the Martian night side. The pilot circled the crater once, engines kicking dust devils luminous under floodlights, before settling near a jagged trench. Elise disembarked, boots crunching over a landscape she had helped destroy. Thermal scanners swept, found nothing. She clicked her headlamp, wading into the trench whose walls glittered black-green like shattered bottles. Halfway down, her beam snagged on motion. A sliver of metallic fur jutting from a cocoon of half-melted relay composite. She knelt, fingers raw against glassed rock, and uncovered a chassis that looked like Kairo cast in obsidian. Armor plates had fused into an exoshell, sensors charred to opaque marble. But beneath that ruin, a pulse module blinked amber, the emergency stasis pack integrated near Kairo's spine in case atmospheric pressure failed. It had triggered microseconds before the blast, flash freezing his cardiovascular system, wrapping organs in an ice sheath stronger than steel. He was neither living nor dead, but suspended on the blade of chemistry. Station medics called it cryonic hold 4, a state meant to last hours, maybe days. They'd never tested it against a thermonuclear tower core. Elise refused the odds again. She authorized a full organ regrowth protocol, spent 40 sleepless hours beside the biovat where nanites rewove shredded tissue strand by strand. Nurses whispered percentages. Auditors muttered about resource allocation. She answered only with Kairo's service record and the casualty list he'd just shortened by thousands of civilian names. On the dawn of the 5th day, the vat chimed, fluid drained, and a trembling dog staggered onto padded paws, fur patchy, eyes unfocused. Elise met him at the threshold, dropped to her knees as Martian dawn gilded the ward, and Kairo leaned his battered head into her chest, answering a whistle she hadn't dared voice since the crater. In the weeks that followed, word of the dog who outlived a star ricocheted through colonies and command centers alike, galvanizing a war-wearied populace. Recruitment surged, terraform engineers volunteered overtime, children painted murals of a shepherd standing guard over domes. Yet Elise saw the lingering tremor in Kairo's step, felt the new seams in his ribs, mortal reminders beneath the myth. She petitioned for both of them to be reassigned to Homeward Command, Earth Orbit HQ, arguing that war heroes sometimes serve best by reminding humanity what it risks losing. High brass agreed, partly swayed by public fervor, partly by the unspoken understanding that soldiers who've danced with extinction deserve a sunrise unaccompanied by sirens. Their transport launched on a cold blue morning, as shuttle thrusters lifted them above rust storms and relic battlefields. Elise gazed through a viewport at the shrinking planet. Kairo lay beside her seat, muzzle resting on her boot, amber eyes tracking the stars he'd once chased in dreams. She whispered, "No red sand between us, remember?" His tail thumped once, slow but certain. Ahead awaited orbital parades, speeches, perhaps peace brief as lunar dusk. Behind lay a crimson world still haunted by Nautiloid spores burrowed deep as regret. If Mars called again, they would answer. But for this one interstellar heartbeat, dog and soldier floated in the quiet grace of survival, guns holstered, scars glowing like constellations charting the way home.